And joining me live is royal reporter for news.com.au, Bronte Coy. Bronte, Harry keeping the options open to return to the royal family after all this, is he dreaming?
Well, in a lot of baffling sort of remarks from Harry, that was probably one of the most baffling, especially after everything he'd said. It was almost like when we heard Thomas Markle begging for reconciliation with Meghan while giving paid interviews. There he was again saying, hey, maybe we can make this work, but is this the pathway to do it?
Yeah, so Harry's on this PR offensive at the moment, 2 interviews down. He's got his memoir out called Spare. And the main point that he's been trying to get across is that the media was so terrible to him and Meghan, helped by members of the royal family, that they felt so unsafe that they had to leave the UK. That's pretty wild accusations, isn't it?
Pretty wild accusations could possibly be the alternative title of the memoir, I don't know. But from this, Harry has walked down this path a number of times. He's spoken about the press intrusion. He's spoken about leaks from within the family. What we haven't seen are very clear examples, and it doesn't seem like we're still going to get that, even from these interviews, what we know about the book. He's sort of rehashing these issues. And it was even brought up by Tom Bradby on ITV, who is a close friend of Prince Harry's. He did put to him, is this worthwhile for you to keep on going over this? Are you in that territory of just having an endless war? And he pushed back and said that it was all for the greater good. So obviously he plans to continue, but certainly he seems to have a very strong idea that the British press and his family were in cahoots, I suppose, to work against them specifically.
I mean, for most things, I'm sure Harry is probably telling the truth, but the problem is that at the UK, like, British people love the royal family. Yeah. And so do people across the Commonwealth as well. And he's sort of saying, if I tell the truth and shed light on this, maybe I can change the institution. But does that mean that Harry is a little bit ignorant in that he actually thinks that he can change this institution that is so old, and they're all about protecting their secrets and how they present themselves to the public?
Well, it's the timing of it as well. You just mentioned the British people loved the royal family. I was about to say the Queen, and the reason I nearly made that mishap is because just a few months ago she passed away after a 70-year reign. And so at the moment especially, the feeling over there particularly is that they feel quite protective towards the royal family. That's certainly the atmosphere on the ground. I was over there covering the Queen's death. And so the timing of Prince Harry coming out and being so, I suppose, antagonistic in a lot of ways towards the royal family is possibly part of the reason why it's not landing potentially how he wanted it to. The other thing that I think is really glaringly obvious is there are certainly points he makes that should be addressed about the institution. And let's separate that from the family itself, the company, the firm. But how is he talking about his brother ignoring him in school, or he's talking about William balding, or
don't forget Beardgate,
and mentioning that his brother was angry that he was allowed to have a beard for his wedding when William wasn't. I don't see how those very private family issues are dismantling the institution that Harry is saying this whole campaign's about. It feels petty.
And also in these interviews, he was saying, I want to further conversations with King Charles and with William will happen in private. But
yeah.
How is he disconnecting that from everything that he's said in these books?
I would like to believe that he and Meghan, through the good work that they have done over the years, are people that are, surrounded by a team that is helping them and advising them, and that they are, they have intelligence. But you hear that kind of statement being made on TV that's going global, and you just wonder how he doesn't hear that, how he doesn't understand the irony of that. There was not a hint of irony in his voice when he said that he would like reconciliation and that should stay private, while discussing it in presumably paid interviews to promote a book that he certainly is being paid for. It just is a bit jarring.
As a royal reporter, and you were over there for the Queen's funeral as well, so you were involved quite heavily on the ground. What's next? Like, where do you see this going with Prince Harry?
I feel, particularly after today, watching these interviews back to back, there are 2 more interviews to come and the book hasn't even been released yet. I feel he's backed himself into a corner, and I actually feel so much empathy for Harry because we're the generation that really loved Harry especially. He was the fun royal you wanted to go out for a drink with, and he seemed really relatable. And the issue now is that it's almost like he's made this his whole platform, instead of focusing on all the different things he and Meghan were going to do when they left the royal family. And I don't see that there's any way out. This is the currency that people want. They want him to speak about the royal family negatively. That's how they're earning money. That's how he's now supporting his family. I feel they're backed into a corner. What else can they do except continue to sell disgruntled comments about the royal family, and it's really sad. It's a really sad outcome for. He clearly needed support when he was younger, and we've learnt that from more comments in the book. He went through an incredible trauma as a child. He's obviously never recovered, and I don't know. As an adult now, he's estranged from his family, and he seems quite unhappy. So
well, he can wipe away those tears with the millions of dollars that he's making. So.